Centralia's lore is the tale of Father Daniel Ignatius McDermott, who allegedly cursed the town in 1869 after being assaulted by Molly Maguires. Legend has it, he proclaimed that St. Ignatius Roman Catholic Church would be the last structure standing in Centralia, a foreboding prediction mirroring the town's gradual decline. By the 1980s, descendants of the Molly Maguires still resided in Centralia, which once boasted a population of 2,761, enriched by diverse Christian churches, hotels, saloons, theaters, and various businesses. However, the town faced significant population decline with the onset of World War I and further economic challenges following the stock market crash of 1929. The closure of 5 mines by the Lehigh Valley Coal Company exacerbated the town's struggles, pushing residents, including bootleg miners, to dangerous lengths such as pillar robbing to sustain their livelihoods. These precarious mining practices contributed to the eventual mine collapses, symbolizing the town's downward spiral. The catastrophic mine fire that ignited on Memorial Day weekend in 1962 marked the beginning of the end for Centralia. The cause of the fire remains a topic of debate, whether it was an intentional burn by the fire department gone awry or an accident by bootleg miners that sparked the inferno. Regardless of its origin, the fire spread through an extensive network of mines, burning thousands of acres and leading to the town's evacuation and eventual abandonment. The persistent fire beneath Centralia, rendering it a modern-day ghost town, stands as a tragic testament to the consequences of industrial exploitation and the resilience of a community faced with an unimaginable disaster. Centralia's story, from its peak to its desolation, encapsulates a unique chapter in American history, where folklore and fact intertwine, leaving a lasting legacy of resilience against adversity. The Centralia mine fire, initially treated as a manageable incident, quickly spiraled into an uncontrollable disaster, leaving the town enveloped in toxic gases and facing imminent danger. Efforts to extinguish the blaze were numerous yet mostly futile, hindered by financial constraints and the challenging nature of the underground fire. State efforts, including trench digging and the application of a water and crushed rock mixture, faced obstacles such as budget overruns and mechanical failures due to freezing temperatures, illustrating the daunting task of combating a subterranean inferno. Despite these challenges, the spirit of Centralia's residents remained unbroken for a time, with many choosing to stay in their homes, adapting to the increasingly hazardous environment. However, the town's plight became a national concern on February 14, 1981, when 12-year-old Todd Domboski narrowly escaped death after falling into a sinkhole caused by the fire's erosion of the ground beneath Centralia. This incident underscored the grave dangers posed by the fire and catalyzed federal intervention. In 1983, the federal government allocated $42 million for relocation efforts, aiming to dismantle the town and rehouse its citizens. Yet not all residents were willing to leave, holding on to their homes and community despite the risks. By 1993, only 63 residents remained, viewed by the state of Pennsylvania as squatters in what had once been their town. This stark reduction in population highlights the profound impact of the fire on Centralia, transforming it from a vibrant community to a ghost town, a cautionary tale of industrial disaster and its long-term effects on human settlements. Today, Centralia stands as a symbol of both human resilience and the devastating consequences of environmental negligence. The ongoing fire beneath its empty streets serves as a haunting reminder of the town's past and a warning for future generations about the importance of sustainable and safe industrial practices. As Centralia's population dwindled to fewer than 10 residents by 2013, those remaining secured a significant legal victory against the state, each awarded $349,000, allowing them to retain ownership of their homes until their deaths. At that point, the state of Pennsylvania would reclaim the land. This settlement highlighted the deep attachment residents had to their homes in the town, despite the ongoing disaster beneath their feet. Lamar Mervyn, Centralia's then mayor, epitomized this sentiment, expressing a desire to remain in his lifelong home, a sentiment shared by his wife in the face of state officials. Lamar Mervyn passed away in 2010 at the age of 93, marking the end of an era for one of the last households within Centralia. Today, the underground fire continues to burn, with estimates suggesting enough coal to fuel the blaze for another 250 years. Despite this, about 5 residents persist, clinging to their town amidst the ruins. Centralia still retains a few structures, including municipal buildings and the fire station's garage. Religious sites like the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church within the town limits, and the St. Peter and Paul Church and Cemetery on the outskirts remain as landmarks amidst the encroaching wilderness. The town's transformation into a ghost town, with nature slowly reclaiming the land once occupied by homes and bustling life, offers a haunting visual narrative. Warning signs dot the landscape, cautioning the curious and the brave who come to witness Centralia's reality, which is parallels fictional Silent Hill but bears the weight of genuine history and loss. Visitors to Centralia are reminded of the town's once thriving community and the tragic circumstances that led to its current state. For those drawn to its story, a visit to Centralia is not just about exploring a real-life ghost town, but also about honoring the memory of the community that once called it home. Whether driven by interest in its eerie ambience or the history of resilience and defiance in the face of disaster, Centralia remains a poignant symbol of the enduring human spirit. In the complex and drawn-out investigation of Martha Moxley's murder, the hiring of a private investigator by the Moxley family 16 years after the tragic event brought significant developments. The Sutton report, resulting from this private investigation, scrutinized Michael Skakel's inconsistent narratives over time, suggesting a possible manipulation by legal counsel to shift from implied guilt to professed innocence. Despite initial suspicions directed at Thomas Skakel, evidence and investigations increasingly pointed towards Michael as the perpetrator. In 1998, Michael Skakel was charged with Martha's murder, culminating in a trial in 2002, where his defense claimed his alibi placed him away from the crime scene. However, the prosecution highlighted Michael's earlier admission of being near Martha's home on the night of her murder, contradicting his alibi and aligning him with the location where Martha was found. The case against Michael Skakel was bolstered by a narrative suggesting that, driven by jealousy after witnessing Martha with his brother, Michael sought her affections, leading to a fatal confrontation when she rebuffed him. The jury found these arguments compelling enough to convict Michael Skakel of first-degree murder in June 2002, resulting in a life sentence at the Garner Correctional Institution. However, the case took another turn in 2007 when Skakel's legal team filed for a new trial, presenting a statement from Tony Bryant, a former classmate and cousin to Kobe Bryant. Bryant claimed that on the night of the murder, one of his friends expressed intentions to assault Martha, introducing new suspects and casting doubt on the validity of Skakel's conviction. The twists and turns of Martha Moxley's case reflect the challenges of achieving justice in complex murder investigations, especially those involving influential families and evolving testimonies. Michael Skakel's conviction, appeals, and the introduction of new evidence underscore the ongoing debate over his guilt and the quest for truth in a case that has captivated public attention for decades. The legal saga of Michael Skakel, involving the tragic murder of Martha Moxley, witnessed yet another pivotal moment in December 2016, when the Connecticut Supreme Court reviewed his case. Despite the Skakel family's hopes for a different outcome, the court upheld his murder conviction by a narrow 4-3 majority. The decision was underscored by one judge's opinion that the conviction was justified by the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecutors and that Michael's legal representation was competent. This opinion firmly attributed the conviction to Michael's guilt rather than any judicial error. However, In a turn of events that often characterizes high-profile legal battles, Michael Skakel was later released from prison, with the announcement that he would not face a retrial, leaving the public and the Moxley family grappling with unresolved questions about justice and the possibility of his innocence or guilt. The story of Teresa Lynn Vargas, born on August 9, 1990 in Dickinson, Texas, presents another tragic case of a young life cut short. Teresa, known for her close relationships with her family, especially her grandmother, and her active social life, met a tragic end on Halloween of 2006. Under the pretense of attending a costume party, she planned to meet with a 19-year-old man she had been communicating with online. This meeting, filled with the anticipation of new beginnings, instead marked the end of Teresa's life. Her body was discovered days later, not far from her high school, igniting a murder investigation that initially focused on her online love interest due to their planned meeting. However, his innocence was confirmed through forensic analysis, which found none of his DNA on Teresa's body. The investigation then revealed that Teresa had attended a party on California Avenue, moving on to another gathering on Dickinson's Bramble Lane. It was here that she was last seen in the company of an older man, shifting the focus of suspicion. Both cases, that of Michael Skakel and Teresa Lynn Vargas, highlight the complexities and challenges inherent in criminal investigations. From the painstaking process of gathering and analyzing evidence to the emotional toll on the families involved, these stories underscore the enduring quest for truth and justice in the face of tragedy. The investigation into Teresa Lynn Vargas's tragic death reveals a case fraught with dead ends and haunting details. The inability of law enforcement to apprehend the man last seen with Teresa, described as a Caucasian with long dark hair, underscores the investigative challenges and the agony of unanswered questions. The condition of Teresa's body, marked by severe ligature marks, mutilation, and the disturbing removal of her hair, suggests a deeply disturbed perpetrator, potentially acting with a personal vendetta or a deranged desire for trophies. The discovery of Teresa's glasses and hair clip near the drainage ditch where her body was found indicates a struggle, possibly revealing her attempts to resist her attacker. Despite the recovery of DNA from her body, the failure to match it to a suspect even 15 years later highlights the limitations of forensic science, particularly when potential suspects have not been previously entered into criminal databases. The investigation saw over 45 people interviewed, yet no charges have been filed, leaving Teresa's family and community without justice. The Dickinson Police Department statement in 2016 hinted at significant developments, but fell short of providing clarity or closure, leaving the public to speculate about connections to broader criminal patterns. Some theories suggest Teresa's murder might be linked to the series of crimes known as the Texas killing fields, a term that conjures images of desolate areas where multiple victims have been found. The murder of Bridget Guerin 9 months after Teresa's, under chillingly similar circumstances and geographically not far from Dickinson, raises the possibility of a serial predator operating in the area. Both cases involved brutal violence, sexual assault, and bodies left near water, drawing parallels that are too striking to ignore. These cases, and potentially others linked to the Texas killing fields, represent a grim tapestry of violence that has haunted communities and baffled investigators. The ongoing quest for answers underscores the persistence of law enforcement and the community's need for resolution and justice for the victims and their families. While there is no official connection made by law enforcement between the murders of Teresa Lynn Vargas, Bridget Guerin, and Sarah Trusty, the similarities in their cases hint at the chilling possibility that they could have been victims of the same perpetrator. The Texas killing fields, a notorious stretch along Interstate 45 known for its link to numerous young women's disappearances and murders since the 1970s, casts a long shadow over these tragic events. This area's grim reputation as a dumping ground for serial killers, coupled with its isolation, makes it a haunting backdrop to these unsolved crimes. Sarah Trusty's murder in 2002, occurring 4 years before Teresa's and in close proximity to Dickinson High School, adds another layer of horror to the pattern of violence against young women in this region. The geographic closeness and methodological similarities raise disturbing questions about the identity and motives of the killer or killers operating within this area. The daunting reality is that, with each passing year, the likelihood of bringing Teresa's killer to justice diminishes, leaving a community in fear and families without closure. The potential for this predator to strike again remains a harrowing concern, one that underscores the urgency of solving these cases and ending the cycle of violence associated with the Texas killing fields. Transitioning to the mysterious case of Sister Tadia Benz in Amarillo, Texas. On Halloween morning 1981, her absence for morning prayers signaled something was amiss. Known for her punctuality and devotion, Sister Tadia's disappearance from her daily routine alarmed her fellow nuns, particularly Sister Angela Martinez, who noted Sister Tadia's unusual absence with immediate concern. The convent, a place of faith and routine, was suddenly thrust into a narrative of mystery and tragedy, echoing the unresolved and haunting stories from the Texas killing fields, but in a vastly different context. These stories, whether linked by geography or the shared tragedy of lives taken too soon, remind us of the ongoing struggles for justice and the importance of remembering the victims, not just as cases but as individuals whose lives were tragically cut short. The serene routine of the saint. Francis Convent in Amarillo, Texas, was shattered on Halloween morning, 1981, with the grim discovery of Sister Tadia Benz's body. Her colleagues, accustomed to the predictability and safety of their sacred space, were confronted with a scene that would haunt them for years to come. Sister Tadia, found lifeless and exposed, prompted an immediate response from the nuns and the law enforcement officers who soon arrived to investigate. Sister Florentine's observation of a broken and ajar window in Sister Tadia's room shifted the narrative from a tragic accident to a potential violent intrusion, underscoring the vulnerability even within the walls of a convent. The subsequent police investigation quickly unveiled the brutal reality of Sister Tadia's final moments: beaten, strangled, and sexually assaulted. Her death was a stark deviation from the peace she had lived in service to her faith. Johnny Frank Garrett, a 17-year-old local, emerged as the prime suspect, his fingerprints found in Sister Tadia's room sealing his fate in the eyes of the law. Garrett's trial unveiled a chilling account of his presence in the convent on the night of the murder, though he claimed his intentions were theft, not violence. The discovery of a steak knife under Sister Tadia's bed, matching Garrett's kitchen set, alongside his admission of entering the convent, painted a damning picture. Garrett's denial of the charges against him did little to sway the judgment, as physical evidence linked him directly to the crime scene. This case, marked by the violation of a sacred space and the brutal end of a life devoted to spiritual service, left an indelible mark on the Amarillo community and beyond. Sister Tadia Benz's murder is a somber reminder of the fragility of safety and the profound impact of violence, even in places where peace is presumed to reign. Johnny Frank Garrett's defense painted a complex picture of a young man entangled in a web of trauma and mental health issues, attempting to account for his presence at the scene of Sister Tadia Benz's brutal murder. Garrett's claim of merely intending theft, including his explanation for the fingerprints found in Sister Tadia's room, was met with skepticism, especially given the covenant security measures and the improbability of valuables like an expensive-looking crucifix in Sister Tadia's possession, considering her vow of poverty. The trial brought to light Garrett's harrowing past, marked by severe abuse and exploitation, which a psychologist highlighted as contributing to his mental instability. This background painted Garrett as both a victim and, in the eyes of the jury, a perpetrator capable of extreme violence. Despite the psychologist's testimony illustrating the depth of Garrett's psychological scars, it did not sway the jury from convicting him of first-degree murder, leading to his death sentence in September 1982. In the final days leading up to his scheduled execution, a remarkable intervention occurred. Pope John Paul II, advocating against the death penalty and suggesting the emergence of new evidence that could prove Garrett's innocence, appealed to the Texas Board of Appeals for clemency. This unprecedented move by the Pope highlighted the broader ethical debates surrounding the death penalty and raised questions about the justice system's capacity for error, especially in cases involving potentially mitigating circumstances like Garrett's mental health and abusive past. However, the Texas Board of Appeals, unmoved by the Pope's appeal and the potential for new exculpatory evidence, unanimously decided not to commute Garrett's sentence. This decision underscores the complexities of balancing justice for victims with the rights and circumstances of the accused, especially in capital punishment cases. Garrett's story, intertwined with the tragic murder of Sister Tadia Benz, remains a somber narrative exploring themes of mental health, trauma, the implications of the death penalty, and the ceaseless quest for truth and justice in the criminal justice system. Johnny Frank Garrett's execution on February 11, 1992, at the age of 28, marked a tragic end to a deeply controversial case. The murder of Sister Tadia Benz represented not only a heinous crime but also a case enveloped in doubt and debate, particularly concerning the justice system's rush to find and punish the perpetrator. The fervent desire to resolve such a shocking crime is understandable. Yet the potential cost an innocent man's life casts a long shadow over the outcome of Garrett's case. 12 years after Garrett's death, Amarillo-based attorney Jesse Quackenbush embarked on a mission to uncover the truth about Garrett's innocence. Quackenbush presented new evidence that not only cast doubt on Garrett's guilt, but also highlighted the possibility of a wrongful execution. His investigations pointed to similarities between Sister Tadia Benz's murder and the murder of Narnie Box Bryson, occurring just months apart in the same area. Leoncio Perez Rueda, convicted of Bryson's murder, became a focal point of Quackenbush's efforts to link the two crimes,